Welcome to the worship service of the United Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Lakeland. My name is Sarah Drum. I use the pronouns she, her. We are glad that you are here, whether in person or virtually. UUCL is an affirming community, and whatever your gender identity, sexual orientation, race, ethnicity, abilities, or theological beliefs, you are welcome here. We would love to get to know you better, so please join us after the service on the patio, or if you're on Zoom, please say hello through the chat feature. Our newsletter is published every Wednesday, and it is the main source of information for what goes on around here, so be sure to sign up. If you already receive it, be sure to read it and find out about all the great things happening around here.
Thank you, Sarah. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Heather Norby. I'm the Spiritual Life Director for this congregation. I also attend seminary at Meadville Lombard Theological School in Chicago. I just completed my third part-time year. So, a few more to go. I'll be there. You can then call me Reverend. Thank you. So I just wanted to let you know about a few important things that are going on. We have a town hall today after service to discuss bylaw changes and the annual meeting agenda. The annual meeting is next week. But before the annual meeting, we'll be holding a special meeting to vote on bylaw changes. So that's why we're having the town hall today, so that you know what you're voting on. Let's see, we have dinner worship this Wednesday night at 6:30. Adam will be making potatoes of some sort.
Whoa.
So bring some kind of dish to put on top of those potatoes.
I think it's raw potatoes, you're welcome.
And I'll encourage him to make mashed potatoes. Yeah, bring a topping to share to go on top of those potatoes, and then we have a conversation, and it is that conversation that we call the sermon for dinner worship. Just got this note. Past UUCL member Bill Lord passed away about 2 months ago. Service for him will be held this coming Thursday, May 19th, in Mims, Florida, on the East Coast, north of Titusville, at a military cemetery. Since Bill was a retired Navy man, Keno Hicks and Jim Kroll plan to go. And if anyone else is interested in going, see Jim or Keno for further information. Keno's right there with the green on his head. Thank you, Keno. All right. Also, on this Thursday, our creative and production team is going to meet here at UUCL because we want to plan our June 19th Pride service. So everyone's welcome to come co-create that service with us. So we're meeting here this Thursday at 6:30 p.m. Probably, maybe in the sanctuary, maybe the social hall. We'll be in this building somewhere. Also, we are involved in the Pope Pride in Faith, which is Thursday, June 16th at 7 p.m. at Beacon Hill Fellowship. We'll be singing, and Brandon and I will be speaking, so you're welcome to join the choir or just come on out and enjoy the service on June 16th. We will also have a booth set up for Pride in the Park on June 18th. That's Saturday. We'll be there all day long, so please come on out and join us. We always have lots of fun. And our annual dinner celebration is a Wednesday night, June 8th. And we will, I think it's potluck. I have to keep reminding myself. It is potluck, and we'll be having lots of fun. We'll be celebrating, and I think there's going to be karaoke as well. So, yay for good singing. All right. And fun singing. For this month of May, our worship and programming theme is Nurturing Beauty. So let us continue our journey together by entering into this sacred space where we celebrate our connected circle of life. Breathe in, feeling the spirit of love in the center of your soul, and breathe out that love towards all your relations. Connected, we are whole. Now please please join me in singing our monthly anchor hymn, Morning Has Come.
Morning has come, night is away, rise with the sun and welcome the day. Morning has come, night is away, rise with the sun and welcome the day.
All of Us Are Beautiful by Thomas Rhodes. We come in a variety of colors, shapes, and sizes. Some of us grow in bunches, some of us grow alone, some of us are cupped inward, and some of us spread ourselves out wide. Some of us are old and dried and tougher than we appear. Some of us are still in the bud. Some of us grow low to the ground, and some of us stretch toward the sun. Some of us feel like weeds sometimes. Some of us carry seeds sometimes. Some of us are prickly sometimes. Some of us smell. And all of us are beautiful. What a bouquet of people we are. Let us signify the creation of this sacred space where we join together to nurture beauty. Let us light our chalice, the symbol of our faith. Today, our chalice lighter is Rachel Walter. Nurturing Beauty by Reverend Suzelle Lynch. Our community is filled with beauty. When you open the door to greet me, that's where the beauty begins. When you share with me what's important to you, beauty is there as I listen. When we join hands to practice compassion, beauty's heart blooms like a flower. When we teach or learn or work for justice, beauty abounding sparks joy in all. Let's light the chalice for beauty now, the beauty we seek, the beauty we share, the beauty we nurture together. Please join us in singing and signing Spirit of Life.
Rise
as a way to heal, knowing that we are all in this together. We will invite you up to the chalice table to place stones in the water for the joys and sorrows you carry with you today. The green stones are for your joys, the white stones are for your concerns, and the blue ones for your sorrows. If you are on Zoom, we will say your name and put a stone in for you so that we all know that we are together and connected, striving towards wholeness. If you're on Zoom and you want a specific color stone put in for you, just say so in the chat feature, and we'll do that for you. So I invite you all up to participate in this weekly ritual of joys and sorrows. Thank you. Today, we are going to start with a very special story. It may be one with which you are familiar and have come to love as a part of this Unitarian Universalist faith tradition. Or perhaps you are new and this yearly tradition we call Flower Communion is a little bit of a mystery to you. In that case, we welcome you into this story that tells of the origins of our Flower Communion. Sarah. invite you to tell us this story.
This story is called The Flower Ceremony, A Plain and Simple Beauty. It's adapted from a story by Janine K. Groschmeyer in her book, Lamp in Every Corner, our UU storybook. In the city of Prague, in the land of Czechoslovakia, in the year 1923, there was a church. But the building did not look much like a church. It had no bells, no spires, no stained glass windows. It had no organ to make beautiful music. It didn't even have a piano. It had no carvings of wood or statues of stone. It had no candles or chalices. It had no flowers. The church did have some things. It had 4 walls, and a ceiling, and a floor. But that was all, plain and simple. Except, the church also had people who came to it every Sunday. It had a minister, and his name was Norbert Čapek. He had been the minister at the Plain and Simple Church for 2 years. Every Sunday, Minister Čapek went to church, and he spoke to the people while they listened, sitting quietly and still in those hard wooden chairs. When he was done speaking, the people talked a little bit among themselves, and then they went home. And that was all. No music, no candles, no food, not even coffee or donuts. Springtime came to the city of Prague, and Norbert Čapek went out for a stroll. The rains had come, the birds were singing, and flowers were blooming all over the land. The world was beautiful. And then an idea came to him, simple and clear, plain as day. The next Sunday, he asked all the people in the church to bring a flower or a budding branch, or even a twig. Each person was to bring one. What kind? They asked. What color? What size? You choose, he said. Each of you choose what you like. And so, on the next Sunday, which was the first day of summer, the people came with flowers of all different colors and sizes and kinds. There were yellow daisies and red roses. There were white lilies and blue asters, dark-eyed pansies and light green leaves, pink and purple, orange and gold. There were all those colors and more. Flowers filled all the vases, and the church wasn't so plain and simple anymore. Minister Čapek spoke to the people while they listened, sitting quiet and still in those hard wooden chairs. These flowers are like ourselves, he said, different colors and different shapes and different sizes, each needing different kinds of care, but each beautiful, each important and special in its own way. When he was done speaking, the people talked a little bit among themselves, and then they each chose a different flower from the vases before they went home. And that was all. And it was beautiful, plain and simple as the day.
Thank you, Sarah. I invite our ritual artist to bring the flowers out to our chalice table now.
Smells good.
Beautiful. Thank you. Here in this community, we nurture the beauty of our diversity through the different ways in which we care for one another. So let us center ourselves in this love that calls us to care and to nurture. Let us clear out the ways in which we judge one another, knowing that placing judgment upon another does not nurture. Instead, let us let in the curiosity that calls us to listen and to try to understand our differences. Let the mystery of life, the mystery of not fully knowing others, guide us towards a careful, reverent, and empathetic kind of listening to one another. One that connects and not divides. One that transforms us as individuals and thus a community. Call upon the Spirit of life now, in whatever way you feel it, and ask it to be with you as we strive to be with each other in a nurturing kind of love, acceptance, and affirmation today. We have much work to do in this world, and that work starts here with us, this beautiful bouquet of people. Invite Glenda up to sing, and Peter and Mary have prepared a special song for us now.
Oh, the other one. All right, here we go.
Some say love, it is a river that drowns the tender reed. Some say love, it is a razor that leaves your soul to bleed. Some say love, it is a hunger, an endless aching need. I say love, it is a flower, and you, its only seed. It's the heart the seed that with the sun's love in the spring becomes the rose.
Thank y'all. It was beautiful and everyone's crying. All right, just take a moment and take some breaths. Let it sink in. All right. When Norbert Chapek started the Flower Communion 99 years ago, he was looking for a new way to nurture his community. He wanted a ceremony that would bring his members closer together and build relationships in a new way. Communion is about relationships. Relationships with what is sacred, relationships with each other. Participating in communion nurtures a community, but Chapek knew he couldn't turn to a traditional communion with bread and wine, as it would alienate people who were leaving conservative traditional religions behind. So, inspired by the beautiful flowers and the countryside surrounding his home in Czechoslovakia, he came up with the Flower Communion. Certainly, Chapek's thinking was forward-facing. It was new, fresh, and focused on change that would nurture the beautiful diversity in his congregation. The Flower Communion is about the coming together of all the different and beautiful flowers and all the different and beautiful people. It honors our uniqueness and our union. Today, our congregation and many other UU congregations around the world still celebrate the Flower Communion. And we still look forward to the future and try to discern how we can bring more love and more unity to this life. And in order to reach that aspiration, it requires a lot of deliberate and thoughtful decision-making. It requires a process for making those decisions in which all voices are heard. We are not effective as a community merely because we exist, but because of what we do and how we do it. And doing requires that we work together to move forward. Our careful and thoughtful doing is what can nurture beauty. That is why today we are centering the decision-making process of consensus building. Making decisions as a congregation with a vast array of unique individuals can sometimes be contentious, laborious, frustrating, and even confusing, especially in a culture of white supremacy in which we are taught to compete, to win, to one-up each other, and shut some voices down. When I stepped into this place 15 years ago, one of the biggest complaints I was hearing from people was that they didn't feel like their voice was being heard or that they mattered, as if they weren't as important as some of the other flowers in the bouquet. Over the years, leadership has taken this complaint seriously and tried to address it in a variety of ways. Certainly, we've made progress towards nurturing a community that has the best intentions of listening to everyone. We see the effects of listening and including rather than repressing and excluding. We are stronger, happier, and growing because of it. But we're not all the way to the promised land quite yet. Now that being said, not every decision we try to make together is difficult and contentious. I've certainly seen us all agree on many issues up for a vote. What lovely moments those are to know that we are centered in the same values and they are calling us all as a group towards something really important. So why consensus building then? If the process we use, Robert's Rules of Order, mostly works, why put so much effort into changing how we do things? Well, my dear people, changing the world requires a sacred engagement of our whole loving selves. And it requires us to really look around the room and see who is being heard and who is not. To understand who is being left out, who is not able to engage their whole and loving selves, and why. We must ask ourselves which flowers are being thrown out of the bouquet. And it has become readily apparent to the leadership of this congregation that using Robert's Rules doesn't work for us. It leaves people out, it becomes a strategy game, it creates winners and losers. Transforming the world means making room for all the flowers, no winners, no losers, just all of us benefiting together, so that we may work towards that spiritual wholeness that our 8th principle calls us into. Let's take a look at what consensus is and how it nurtures the beauty of our diversity. From the Consensus Council and their website, they say, in simple terms, consensus refers to agreement on some decision by all members of a group, rather than a majority or a select group of representatives. The consensus process is what a group goes through to reach this agreement. The assumptions, methods, and results are very different from traditional parliamentary procedure or majority voting methods. In the traditional political and legal processes, one side wins and one side loses. Some issues come back time and again, or an issue may be so contentious that it simply is never resolved. So I would like to add here that parliamentary procedure and majority voting are a part of Robert's Rules of Order. Here's what I think. We are a church, a spiritual community. We're not here to win, right? We're not here so that we can say, my idea is the best. We're here to build community, this community. And that doesn't happen when we play a strategy game so that we get our way or so that we defeat others. In no way does that serve to build a spiritual and inclusive community. Let me continue with the Consensus Council's definition of what consensus is. By contrast, a public policy consensus dialogue is framed and agreements developed in a mutually beneficial way, ensuring that no issue is off limits and that all essential stakeholders are on board. Acting according to consensus guidelines enables a group to take advantage of all group members' ideas. By combining their thoughts, people can often create a higher quality decision than a vote decision or a decision by a single individual. Further, consensus decisions can be better than vote decisions because voting can actively undermine the decision. People are more likely to implement decisions they accept, and consensus makes acceptance more likely. Isn't that beautiful? Do you hear how consensus works to nurture the beauty of our diversity? Furthermore, from the Consensus Council, what the consensus process requires is a high level of trust among the members of the group. People need to believe that each member is a fair and reasonable person of integrity who has the organization's best interests at heart. There are no perfect groups or perfect individuals. But for consensus to work, the members must believe that everyone is honestly doing their best. And what is required from you to honestly do your best? Come to the discussion with an open mind. This doesn't mean not thinking about the issue beforehand, but it does mean being willing to consider any other perspectives and ideas that come up in the discussion so that you can be a nurturer of beauty and not a strategist intent on winning. Listen to other people's ideas and try to understand their reasoning, as opposed to listening to reply with your own rebuttal. That is the sacred way of being in community. You can describe your own reasoning briefly so other people can understand you, too. Avoid arguing for your own judgments and don't try to make other people change their minds just to agree with you. But also, don't change your mind only to reach agreement and avoid conflict. That can lead to resentment on your part, and that is not helpful either. Each of you should feel like issues have been resolved to the point that you don't have any serious reservations that cause some sort of internal strife or a break from the community. View differences of opinion as helpful and creative rather than harmful. Avoid conflict-reducing techniques such as majority vote. Stick with the process and see if you can't reach consensus after all. Stick with this process of nurturing beauty. It takes time and patience. It is not an easy task. It is a task in which we will have to form new habits, and I know that that is really hard. But the reward will be great. Building the beloved community is not quick and easy, but if we want to see it in the world beyond our walls here, we have to learn how to do it here with ourselves. Consensus building is a process in which all the flowers are heard, in which we create solutions together so that the bouquet, the whole of who we are, is greater than each individual flower. Now, to help illustrate this point, we'll take our flowers here and
Which you have a glorious hodgepodge of different flowers.
do indeed. And guess what? They're voting. Now, this is just an illustration to help you understand what happens when I'm not saying that a majority vote is not appropriate in some situations. This is just my illustration for us today. That when we have a majority vote, that some of the flowers will say yes, and some of the flowers might say no. And we become split. And our poor flowers over here that voted no might feel a little bit
Estranged.
a little bit estranged, a little alienated, and they're no longer a part of the beautiful bouquet over there. But when we use consensus building, perhaps we can add all the flowers back to the bouquet, and that might mean some of us have to, give up just a little, prune our ideas, prune our thoughts as we listen to others. What do you think? Sarah teaches consensus in her 4th grade classroom. And so I know that she knows a lot. What happens when those 4th graders start building consensus?
Well, they go from talking over one another and arguing and crying and raising their hand for the teacher to, suddenly, hearing each other and thinking of different ways that they could solve their problems and trying out different strategies and seeing what sounds best, what works best for our group.
What does that do for the morale in your classroom?
Takes away the crying. And everybody feels heard. It's the biggest thing in our groups is not feeling listened to. And nothing causes my students to shut down faster than well, nobody's listening to me, so I'm just going to sit here and they can do whatever, but I'm not learning, I'm not contributing. So it really brings everybody up when they're listened to, even if they have to prune some of their ideas. As they share.
Thank you, Sarah. Give a little bit more shape, a little bit more order. Oh, here's some pretty roses. Yeah, I think there's nothing wrong with arranging our thoughts a little bit. After all, we don't grow and change. What are we doing?
And moving one flower to another spot can change your whole perspective and what everything looks like and how it comes together.
I love that. Thank you. Consensus building engages us in behaviors that lift up things like relationship, covenant, creativity, aspirations. Those are the things that embrace us all and nurture beauty. That's what consensus building is all about. You will have the opportunity to dig into this and ask questions about it during our town hall meeting today after service. I hold a joyful curiosity in my heart right now, knowing that you will all have thoughts and questions about this. I hold the hope that you are all excited to engage in this forward-looking process and way of making decisions that build community. And I am excited to get to work on fulfilling our mission of love plus connection equals transformation. Say it with me. Love plus connection equals transformation. Thank you.
We have now come upon the moment when we can share our treasures with this community as an act of faith. When we each give what we can back to life, we serve a greater good, creating a powerful beauty that can change the world. Before we pass the plates, we invite Mark Gatsby up to share with us why he gives to this UUCL community.
Good morning.
Good morning.
35 stones surround that bouquet of flowers. I learned not too recently, I didn't give it too much thought until now, what those stones are, the names that are written on them. And I thought about the people who imagined this congregation before it existed. At the time, they could expect nothing more in return than what they brought with them. After they created it, it grew into something that took on a life of its own, and they have brought us this sanctuary, our home. So I give for two reasons. First, as a debt of gratitude to those who came before us, who built this sanctuary, who made this moment possible, and also as a gift to the people who will follow. We are making a promise every time we come here. And that is my promise to them. Thank you.
the end of World War II, it was revealed that Unitarian minister and founder of this flower communion, Norbert Čapek, had died in a Nazi concentration camp. Since this time, the communion has spread to many of our Unitarian Universalist congregations and has been adapted along the way. Today, we connect to the roots of our faith tradition, remembering that our community includes the ideas and experiences of those who came long before us. Our community includes UUs around the world who also partake in this ritual. The significance of the flower communion is that no two flowers are alike, no two people are alike, yet each has a contribution to make. Together, the different flowers form a beautiful bouquet. Our common bouquet would not be the same without the unique addition of each individual flower, and thus it is with our church community. It would not be the same without each and every one of you. So this service is a statement of our community. By exchanging flowers, we show our willingness to walk together in love and beauty as we search for truth, as we turn love into justice, and as we create a better way because of our differences. This communion of sharing is essential to a people bound to the promises and principles that love has helped us create. Each person contributes to the beauty of the communal bouquet, and each person takes home a flower brought by someone else as a symbol for remembering their commitment to a shared community. Whenever Dr. Čapek conducted his flower communion in Prague, he would say this proverb as he consecrated the flowers. So I ask you to please stand in body or spirit as I read his words. Infinite Spirit of life, we ask thy blessing on these, thy messengers of fellowship and love. May they remind us amid diversities of knowledge and of gifts to be one in desire and affection and devotion to thy holy will. May they also remind us of the value of comradeship, of doing and sharing alike. May we cherish friendship as one of thy most precious gifts. May we not let awareness of another's talents discourage us or sully our relationship, but may we realize that whatever we can do, great or small, the efforts of all of us are needed to do thy work in this world. It is now time for us to share in the flower communion. As you approach the communion vase, do so reverently, with a sense of how important it is for each of us to address our world and one another with gentleness, empathy, and love. Select a flower different from the one that you brought. What different perspective does it bring to the table that you need to listen to? We will share quietly in this Unitarian Universalist ritual of oneness and love as Petra and Glenda accompany us, the chant. Is this Mary too? Just you two. Whoever. You may come forward and select a flower. Beautiful flower. to our flowers, with them to each other. Hymn number 78, Color and Fragrance. So feel free to stand up. The words will be on the screen. And stand up with those flowers and sing with us. Written by the Dr. Norbert Schotpak. I offer you now, you can be seated or stay. I offer you now Dr. Schotpak's Flower Communion Prayer, which I edited to be inclusive. In the name of Providence, which implants in the seed the future of the tree, and in the hearts of all the longing for people living in human love. In the name of the highest, in whom we move and who makes the mother, father, and all who parent, the siblings, friends, and neighbors what they are. In the name of sages and great religious leaders who sacrificed their lives to hasten the coming of peace and justice, let us renew our resolution, sincerely to be real siblings rooted in love, regardless of any kind of bar which estranges one from another. In this holy resolution, may we be strengthened, knowing that one Spirit, the Spirit of love, unites us. And may we endeavor for a more perfect and more joyful life. Amen. Norbert Schotpak sacrificed his life in the name of love and unity. Let us honor this ancestor by manifesting in the world the meaning of his flower communion through a process of consensus building and thoughtful, creative solutions. Please
join me as we extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this chalice, but not a light of truth, the warmth of love, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts, and now in